Hello, I am Emily Hazard.
And I'm Becca Anderson.
And this is Grey's Anatomy Uncut, a podcast where we discuss and analyze episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Today, we finally made it. The prophecy has come to pass. We're in Season 3, Episode 1. Time Has Come Today, a song originally sung by the Chamber Brothers. Original air date is September 21st, 2006. Written by Shonda Rhimes, directed by Daniel Minahan. 25.41 million viewers, which was actually up from the series finale. The Season 2 finale.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you watched, especially just the ending scene of that episode, I'd be like, I don't even care about these characters. I want to watch.
But they also switched days of the week, so they went from Sunday to Thursday, so that means that people had to, actively know what day it comes on, which is kind of impressive in itself.
Well, it also might, I don't know statistically about, what day of the week things come on and, how many people watch, but, that could have affected... Okay, of course you do.
I know that Thursday night at 9 is the most coveted spot because it's the most competitive spot of television.
So, that, alone could have affected the amount of viewers, but... Anyway.
Fun facts for this episode. This is the first episode Meredith has not been in the hospital. This is also the first for Izzie and Callie. This is a flashback episode. Thanks. First flashback episode. Okay. As of this episode, Sarah Ramirez joins the main cast as Callie Torres. Season 3 extended DVD box includes an audio commentary on the extended version of the episode from Kate Walsh and Shonda Wilson. And yeah, I didn't watch it. I own it, and I didn't watch it.
I don't own it, so, that's why I didn't watch it, but...
I have a lot of things to do. Anyway, so, why don't you take the opening statement?
All right. I feel like one big thing kind of to mention before we kind of get into the season is that this season can sometimes be so hard to watch, honestly, because it's a lot darker than Season 2, They deal with some really heavy things sometimes, and so it can be a little bit harder to watch.
She's not just talking about the terrible lighting choices of the latest
yeah, no.
She means, the content. Emotionally darker.
The content. But at the same time, it's also very powerful and good. I think we're still in the kind of peak seasons of the show. This episode is a really, I think, prime example. As I mentioned, I don't know if you guys, hopefully you watched the Season 2 overview, but if not, the first time I watched this episode, 301, it broke me. I remember, laying on the floor of my basement, crying along with Izzie. And it broke me. And I was just, oh man, it's amazing. But I think they did such a great job with all the choices they made in this episode. But overall, really good. I like it.
So I've always said that Season 2 is the height of Grey's Anatomy's power, but Season 3 is the height of its influence. And what I mean by that is that Season 2 clawed and fought for the show's critically acclaimed status. And by the time Season 3 premiered, it had the attention of the American public, and in some ways, I do think that Season 3, in some ways, rode on the coattails, rode on the hard work of Season 2. Not to, criticize Season 3, but I will be pointing out certain ways that I see it. This premiere, everyone was watching and waiting, and I think that what makes Grey's a special show is that Season 3 did not disappoint. Sometimes when you see shows that are popular, the next season is a bit of a failure, But I didn't feel that way about this premiere. I think it did everything it needed to do to almost, quote, restart Grey's Mania and show us where the show is headed this season.
Yeah.
All right, how about you read the opening?
All right. In the OR, time loses all meaning. In the midst of sutures and saving lives, the clock ceases to matter. 15 minutes, 15 hours. Inside the OR, the best surgeons make time fly. Outside the OR, however, time takes pleasure in kicking our asses. For even the strongest of us, it seems to play tricks. Slowing down, hovering, until it freezes, leaving us stuck in a moment, unable to move in one direction or the other.
So that's kind of important. So Shonda wrote the Gray Matter blog this week, and she had a ton of interesting things to say. And the first thing was that in this episode, when you're watching it, keep in mind that everyone is stuck. Everyone is stuck where they are in the episode, and everyone is plagued by the past.
Oh, yeah.
Plagued.
Which is why it has all the flashbacks and everything.
Yeah. So Lullaby by the Dixie Chicks is the song that starts us off in this episode. Great album, by the way. Taken the Long Way. Awesome. And we pick up right where we left off, which is hugely important to me.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it would have been really weird if they, like, you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine you come back and it's like 6 months later and everyone's fine and you're like, but what happened, you know?
Season 12.
You know, though, like, I feel like it would have just been weird. Like, you're like, and then they would have had to do this whole, like, recap thing, like, in the last 6 months while you've been gone. Like, no. This is more effective. It's better writing. It was a good decision.
Doing it the hard way instead of taking the easy way out. As Shonda says, she owes it to the characters and she owes it to the fans. And I'm like, where did that mentality go, sweetie? Anyway. So we see flashes of, like, lightning, surgeries, someone standing in the rain outside a door, Addison sitting in the trailer holding, in Derek's tux jacket, which, what? She just, like, decided to put it on. And then,
but, like, how'd she get it? Like, because he was totally wearing it in the last scene.
I'm sure he, like, gave it to her and then, like...
You know what I mean?
Or, like, gave her the tux and was like, look, I have a surgery, because we know that he actually did have a surgery.
Oh, that's fair. That's right. He does mention that later.
And then she's holding Meredith's panties, which nailed it. And then Izzie laying on the floor until we finally settle on Meredith running in slow motion out of the front door in her prom dress. So she literally ran away from Dr. Finn Dandruff and Derek.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, I probably would have done the same thing.
You would have literally run away, like when they're both like, Meredith, and then you would have just turned around and sprinted out of the hospital.
I don't know if I was sprinted, but I've been like, ooh, I gotta be somewhere. Bye.
Zoink. Yeah. So then Meredith's house the next morning. Meredith, Alex, George, Christina are standing outside. Everyone looks suspiciously 6 months older, even though this is supposed to be the next morning.
Why has everyone aged?
Alex has a new haircut, even though this is supposed to be like 10 hours later.
At midnight, he just like goes out and decides to get a haircut.
Yeah. And they're all like trying to... These next few lines from Meredith is probably like... half the reason I love her as a character, but also kind of for the new viewers of the show, because they kind of like, Christina, this is familiar territory to you. And then Meredith expositions for us, and she goes, there's nothing familiar. Denny died. The man she loves died. And I'm like, wow. And then Christina goes, but you're all dark and twisty inside.
Dark and twisty? I
kind of forgot that dark and twisty didn't become a thing until season 3.
I know.
It seemed earlier than that.
It seems like it's always like just been a thing.
I think they nailed it.
But whatever.
And then Christina continues to exposition, and she says, mother with the Alzheimer's thing, and the father you don't talk to, and Alex continues and says, and the tequila thing, and the inappropriate men thing. It's awesome. I just love this line from Meredith. So now, all of a sudden, I'm the president of people with crappy lives? And it's like, come on, Meredith, you know you love it.
Let's just also flash back to, let's play a game of whose life sucks the most. I'll win. I always win. Meredith.
Yeah, so anyway, then we cut inside to Izzie, and just right away, how did you feel about the blocking of having her lay on the floor the whole episode?
What do you mean, like, the blocking?
Well, like, back when you first watched this the first time, you didn't know that she was laying on the floor. So, did it surprise you that she was literally laying on the floor, crumbled up?
I don't think it was more of, like, a surprise, because, like, I don't know, like, she's upset. Like, I think it more surprised me that she was on the bathroom floor. Mm-hmm. Or, like...
Just think about it. That's the very room where Callie didn't wash her hands.
Disgusting. I think that's what they should have done. Walks in, hey, Meredith, Izzie, Callie didn't wash her hands in here. She would have been, like, right by, like, gotten up to the floor. It would have saved this whole episode.
I think, though, that, like, you have no idea what Izzie's gonna look like going into this episode. So, 1, she's still in the dress. 2, she's on the floor. Like, right away, try to imagine you've never seen this episode before and you've never seen that iconic shot of her on the floor. The first time you saw it, you had to have been shocked.
A little bit. I think also a thing that really shocked me was just how almost, like, still kind of like, because, like, her face just seems like, it's almost, like, weirdly calm in a way, you know, like, she's not crying. She doesn't, I mean, like, the only thing that you can really get from, like, how you know she's upset is the fact that she's, like, still in her prom dress on the floor, and, like, you know, we know that Denny just died.
Well, I would debate that you can tell she's upset because she's not showing emotion, and Izzie always shows emotion.
A little bit. Well, I feel like that's what's really, like, the shocking part, was, like, that you're, like, she looks very calm, like, she's, like, I don't know, like,
she looks dead. Like,
and I think
dead inside.
And I think that was, in a way, like, the more shocking thing than, like...
I was shocked when I saw her laying on the floor in the prom dress, because I figured that they got her out of the dress and maybe she was just, like, refusing to come out of the bathroom. But no, like, that was shocking to me. The whole idea...
Well, she also did go home with Alex and George, and let's face it, none of that... They would have just been like, do whatever you want, Izzie.
Yeah. I mean, this posture that Katherine Heigl has to do the whole time is doing...
Basically the fetal position.
Is really not doing her any favors. None. But she can still act so well that even though she's in this awkward, like, because, you know, they have to, you know that they had to arrange where her hands are going to go and stuff just for the shot, to make the shot look good. And she can still act even though she's in this weird, like, setup. Like, laying on the floor, she still acts better than most people on Earth. So, whatever.
Better than me.
So then we get our first flashback right away. Mm-hmm. Take Me Away by Tegan and Sarah plays, and we're at the intern mixer that we've heard about.
Well, and I like how, even before that, you get the kind of, like, voiceover of the chief from episode 1 of, like, the 7 years you spent
here. And the clock.
Yeah, I like that.
The clock is huge, how that clock ticking.
Yeah, how it, like, transitions kind of into it.
I remember being shocked when we got a flashback, and I at first thought that it was only supposed to be for Izzie because she had gone through so much.
Yeah.
So I thought we were just going to get a bunch of Izzie flashbacks, which, thank God, Grey's wasn't the kind of show that made one character episodes. You know, those kind of shows where, like, this episode is dedicated to blah, 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 and it's annoying. Mm-hmm. It's like, why can't we all... be in an episode together?
I feel like it almost took me a second to, like, place kind of, like, what the flashback was, because I was like, I wasn't like, oh, this is a flashback. I was kind of like, what is this a flashback? Like, it was kind of like that whole thing, like, wait, what?
But I do like this, because Shonda told the fans via the Grey Matter blog to, like, why don't you guys rewatch the pilot and look for, and just listen to all the details
that they give, like, about, like, the mixer and whatever.
And about the night before they met. Like, Derek's red shirt, you know?
Oh.
All of that stuff was sprinkled into the pilot, and they took it. See, this is a perfect example of them taking something they already wrote. They had no idea that they were going to use it in this way, but they found a creative and, like, just glorious way to use it that seems natural, and that is what good writing is.
Yeah.
So anyway, this mixer, it's Izzie and Alex meeting for the first time.
Which, like, 100%, I think they put Katherine Heigl's, like, hair and, like, the headband like that to make her look younger.
She looks like a kid, like a little kid.
Like, but that's what that, like, hair kind of thing, that was the plan.
And Alex looks suspiciously like he does now, not like he did in the pilot.
And George is just, like, acting, like, kind of like I don't even know.
Like a lost puppy.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people hanging on the chief's every word.
Mm-hmm. I like how you also, like, they have all these people and you're like, I have never seen these people. These must be the people that quit.
Exactly. No, but this is kind of cool because he asks her, like, oh, you're in surgery? And he goes, oh, I would have picked you for gynae or peds or something.
Irony.
How ironic is that?
And then Izzie, please.
Yeah, and then Izzie goes, oh, please, you don't think I can be a surgeon? I can be a surgeon. And Alex says, you won't last the first year, babe. Which, two things. One, that's kind of interesting because she didn't. And two, she still sleeps with this asshole.
Yeah. Well, I think that also is a good little plant, like, because you're like, yeah, she still sleeps with this guy, but it's like, that's where her mindset was. You know, like, we have to remember, like, this was the time of Hank. She
was still dating Hank.
That's so true. She was. Ugh.
Hank the Tank.
You know, and I think it's also cool, like, because then you got to, like, to see, like, the whole, how far she's come and, like, whatever, because you're, like, the Izzie now, like, Alex would have said that and she probably, like, would have punched him in the face or something.
Yeah.
Like.
Do you mind reading what Shonda has to say about Catherine's performance here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she says, Katie Heigl's amazing performance sucks me in every time. Anyway, I was worried about Izzie, and I knew that she was going to really be suffering when we see her again this season, but I wasn't sure how to make it clear that she was grieving without having a funeral, and I really didn't want a funeral. I see them on TV, and they never have the impact that a real funeral does. They never have that surreal, horrible sinking feeling you get when sitting at the funeral of someone you care about. There's a distance to a funeral with TV for me. You sit at a funeral and you find yourself reliving all these moments in time and regretting things, which is why this episode is about time and being stuck in a moment. So Izzie is stuck on the bathroom floor, unable to bring herself to move, because taking off that dress means Denny is really gone. Mm-hmm. Which I really liked that. I don't know, we get a funeral scene at least later in the show, and it's definitely not nearly as effective at showing the, like, grief and sadness that this entire episode, even, like, into, like, more episodes into the season, that really shows.
I love including these Shonda Rhimes quotes because it just shows you, like, me reading these shows you how much that she has changed herself, because some of the things that she says are so opposite of what she evidently believes now. But if Shonda Rhimes ever does listen to this podcast, come on the pod. We'd love to interview you.
And I also like how they kind of intermix, like, flashbacks, and then it, like, flashes in and, like, a different intern is, like, ends up laying on the floor next to Izzie. And it's just, like, I don't know. I just like the sweet littleness of, like, how each of them don't really know what to say or do, but they just, like, know that they need to help her. Mm-hmm. And it's cute.
So the new intern is George. He's wearing the worst version of his long sleeve short sleeve combo that I have ever seen. It is so ugly it looks like something vomited on him. It's like this vomit beige and a short sleeve, like, button down shirt on top of it. It's horrendous. Yeah. And he's trying to get her to change her clothes, and she just finally, we actually hear her voice, which is interesting, and she's very adamant about not changing her clothes, and she goes, "There's nothing to discuss." And George just goes, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Yeah, me too." And if you notice, because it did take me a few times watching this episode to notice it, George, like, extends his pinky to touch hers at the end of that scene, and, like, I don't know what it is about just tiny little things like that, because that was one of the most adorable things in this whole episode. Just because it was, like, this, like, he wants to, like, touch her and, like, you know, make her feel better, but he doesn't know how to, so he just, like, extends his pinky, and I thought that was cute.
They're adorable.
They are. They're adorable. George needs to change clothes, though. So we're in Seattle Grace now. Hallelujah. And there's a morgue guy, and if we cut back to, I believe it was season 2, episode 21, they were talking about different morgue guys. Yeah. This is neither unibrow morgue guy or the one with the teeth thing. So there are at least 3 morgue guys in this hospital.
Fascinating. But what is this guy?
I'm going to call him...
Guy that messes up who he gives to funeral homes?
That's not catchy enough.
Yeah, well, that was, like, a huge thing. Like, can you imagine, like, you're showing up for a funeral and then it's, like, open, and they're like, open casket, and you're like, that's not the person it's supposed to be.
That's not Grandpa Louie.
Louie.
I'm gonna call this guy Blackberry, because all he did was text on his Blackberry.
Okay. So it's basically just Bailey identifies that it's Denny.
And I'm, like, so glad that the audience also didn't see the body, because that aligns us even more with Izzie, where we won't ever see him again. And if we had just seen his body, it would have taken us out of the episode. It would have detached us from the interns, which is the biggest mistake you could make with this show.
Yeah. It also would have been just, like, weird. Like,
that's what I mean. It would feel weird because you would feel like you saw something that the interns didn't, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
No funeral. But his family lives in Memphis, so interesting.
Good to know. And then I like this little moment where Bailey just kind of like goes up back like to like the body bag and is like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So for all of you out there wondering why the freak we love Meredith, here we go. This is peak neurotic Meredith, and I'm a sponge soaking it up.
I love her. I also like they're making sandwiches.
We're doing this dialogue. I hope you know.
Well, yeah.
I will be Meredith.
Because you're as neurotic as she is now. But I just love, like, she's like, we're making sandwiches. And they're like, you know how you're supposed to, like, cook for people, like, when someone dies? And you're like, Meredith literally can't do anything.
And she's, like, shaking with her neuroticism. Like, did you see her in this scene? She's like, sandwiches are comfort food. Like,
Which what?
Just, can you read Christina?
Why are we making sandwiches again?
It's what you do when someone dies. You cook.
Yeah, I know what to do when someone dies. I am a Jew. I know food and death. It's Shiva.
Is it Shiva, even if she's Catholic?
Well, Shiva's what I know how to do. And so, yeah, it's Shiva. And if we're sitting Shiva for Denny, then we should order in because making sandwiches is not the same as cooking.
Sandwiches are comfort food.
What's wrong with you?
Everything with me is fine. It's Izzie we're worried about.
What did you do?
Denny died. Bert got shot. Let's just have some perspective and remember that what I did is a tiny, slightly small...
Whatever, spit it out.
I lost my panties last night. And Sandra Oh's face, like, just... I'm speaking directly to you, Sandra. Thank you for your face. Like, it is hilarious. It's like shock, and then she's like, oh, you son of a bitch. Like, you little monster. And Grey's Anatomy's back, baby. Season 3. Oh, my God. Hilarious.
Oh, it's so good.
And then we cut over to Derek's trailer, and we see what the freak she did, and oh, it's bad. Damn! Grey's Anatomy went there, and Addison has now laundered Meredith's panties, which, by the way, waste of water. One pair of panties for a whole load of laundry and a whole dry cycle. Whatever, I guess they're rich. And she puts it in the Ziploc baggie.
Shit trailer.
Yeah, they live in a shit trailer in the woods of desolation.
That's why they're rich. Their house sucks.
Yeah, whatever. But they're paying property tax on all that land.
Fair.
And this is why I love this show. They're not afraid to do things. Because in the writer's room, they're like, what's the most awkward, insane, and emotionally damaging thing we could possibly do with those panties? And they did it.
I also, like, it's almost scary. Again, how kind of calm she is while doing this, you know? Because you know... She knows exactly whose panties. Like,
oh, she knew as soon as she saw him. Yeah,
exactly. But like, she's not like crying. She's not like she's washing them, and you're almost like, oh my god, she's gonna burn the trailer down.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what she's gonna do with the panties.
You're like, she's going to blow up the hospital. Oh my god.
Here we go. Cut to Derek, who looks like the saddest sack of shit this show has ever seen, and he's talking to the chief, and I like how he asked for Meredith and then he corrects himself with Dr. Gray, and the chief is like, why, what's going on? He's like trying to get in the gossip, and Derek's like, no.
The chief's like fully aware that he's not in on all of the gossip, and so he's like, tell me, I'm cool, and Derek's just like, go away.
And I like this where Derek's like, can somebody cover my rounds? Because remember, he hardly does anything in this hospital in the first place.
Yeah, let's be real. He was like, I've been here all night, like, I had a surgery or whatever, and you're like, but did you, Derek?
But did you? Yeah.
Or were you just following other interns around being
Were you just following other people around critiquing their breakfast choices? So I'm going to say right now, I don't like these patients. Omar and Giselle, they're boring. That's the only reason I don't like them. They're just boring. I could not connect with them.
I agree. I think, obviously in this episode, they're the lesser of the patient stories we get.
This episode isn't really patient-driven at all.
Well, I mean, like, none of the interns are really even at the hospital for most of the episode.
Yeah.
So,
and in that way, the episode's effective. In patient-wise, it's not effective at all. But it's okay. Not every episode needs to be driven by patients.
That's what makes this show brilliant, anyway.
So how do you like the beginning of this Alex/the baby storyline? Did it seem a little overdramatic to you when, like, they were in the ER and Olivia's like, you can't take it?
I just, like... I don't know. Olivia seemed kind of annoying. Like, Alex, how old is that baby? Like, shut up, Olivia. God.
Yeah. Like, shut up.
I think it was more like she seemed like, I don't know. It seemed like the actor was maybe.
No, I'm talking about the show made it too dramatic. With the, like, beating of the drums. They're like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
A little bit. And then he, like.
Anyone who knows me knows how much that annoys me.
A little bit. Like, and especially when he's just like, I'm running out of the ER. And you're like, ugh.
And you're like, just, like, take it down a notch. Like, Grey's Anatomy, don't start taking yourself too seriously.
Like, it was a little over dramatic, but, like, at the same time, I was like, I'm still okay with it. Yeah.
That's, like, the theme of season 3 is, like, things are just over dramatic, but I kind of ignore it. You know? Like, I'm like, it's over dramatic, but I'll allow it this time. And that's kind of, like, the transition of season 3 for me. Well,
it's also, like, I feel like they haven't hit the, like, way too over, like, you know, like, they're kind of, like, they're, like, one step in the, like, kind of over dramatic direction. Like, they're gonna get, you know, like, 10 steps up later.
Yeah.
And so I feel, and it's also not everything, which I think is also why I'm like, I'm okay with it, because it's like you know, like,
I would prefer to not have it that way, but because they actually can find a balance in this season specifically, I ignore it.
It's not like every patient line is like super over dramatic, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. So I just wanted to read this line because I like what Kate Walsh does. Dr. Karev, I'm not asking where the mother is for my health. I expect you to use your brain. Where is the mother? I don't know, when she's just like, you idiot.
She's just like, you asshole. Like, come on, answer me. And then I don't know, the baby was found in a trash can at the high school. And she's like, wait, what?
She's like, they left him in a trash can. And I was like, Kate Walsh, oh, take all my money. Why is she so charming?
Which also begs the question, if you were in high school and pregnant, would you be like, hey, friends, I'm in labor. Let's go to the bathroom so I can give birth to this child, and then let's leave it in the trash can?
Well, no. Are you asking me if I would do that?
Well, first off, you wouldn't have been pregnant in high school.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. But what if you were? I wouldn't be.
You know what I, like, where is the, like, thought process in all of that?
I mean...
Granted, there wasn't any, but...
Well, granted, they're also, like, what, they're, like, sophomores? They're, like, 15 years old?
14.
They're 14.
They're, like, freshmen, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that... Come on. Like, when you're 14, you do the dumbest shit ever. Like, you think the dumbest shit is funny, and you do...
But I don't know if they thought this was, like, funny.
Well, no, I'm just saying, in general, 14-year-olds don't have, like, higher brain function. Like, they're barely even people.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I know that later in private practice, it becomes kind of a storyline that Addison really wants kids. And so I wonder if, like, somebody neglecting a child so much specifically affects her because she wants a kid so bad. Just interesting.
It's an interesting thing to, like, think about, especially, like, kind of...
She doesn't have one with Derek, you know?
Especially kind of, like, on a rewatch, you know, like, when you know that that's what happens.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to think about it from, like, the perspective of, like, what happened to Addison last episode. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think in some way, like, she is kind of the baby left in the trash can, just kind of, like, discarded by Derek? Like, feels a little bit like that?
Yeah, I think that the discarded factor can kind of come into play. Like, later in this episode when she goes, they could have left him at a firehouse. They could have done so many, like at a church. They could have done so many things and not gotten in trouble and not hurt anybody in the process. Yeah. You know? And so I do kind of see what you're saying there. But anyway, speaking of Derek, he's in surgery with George on the really boring patient, Giselle. And he asks, how's Izzie? And I find this interesting. Because George is like, well as can be expected. And he goes, it never gets easier, you know, losing a patient. A little less shock, I guess, but it never gets any easier. And TR does a brilliant job. Because he's a little bit confused at first. And then he realizes that Derek doesn't know, you know?
Which is hilarious. Like, is Derek really that out of touch with the whole hospital that he didn't know about that?
Yes.
Like, we thought the chief was, like, the last to find out. Derek
literally didn't even, like, no, like, actually think back to the season 2 finale when, like, he's watching, like, Izzie quit, and he's just like, man, must have lost a really tough patient. Yeah, he's so out of it.
Like, he's like, wow, that sucks. Or, like, even, like, did he not know about, like, the whole cutting alphabet?
Dogs knew before Derek. Dr. Finn Dandruff knows the lay down.
Like, that's just my favorite part. It's not like thinking back. I'm like, did he really, like, what?
I have this theory that, and I've had this for a while, that without Meredith, Derek would be like a 70-year-old, like, grandpa, like, what's going on, guys? Like, you know how he's always breaking into other people's scenes because he has no life? Yeah, like, without Meredith, I don't think he would know anything that's going on ever. And so George goes, Izzie was in love with him. Denny wasn't just a patient, they were in love. And Derek was like, just looks over, and that's the first one, because we get this theme of like discussing love and loss with George and Derek in this episode,
which I like we haven't gotten a lot of scenes with them, but I like it.
Yeah, is this possibly like one of the first times that George is solo with Derek?
I think so.
I mean, there was that season 1 episode where that guy was drinking on the job.
Oh yeah, like they've had like shorter little things, but no like
full episodes.
Yeah. And we get back to neurotic Meredith. I
love this so much.
I love Christina, and she just like cannot comprehend like what happened.
Can I be Christina this time? I love this so much.
Fine.
Did you want to be Christina?
I don't care.
You had sex with Derek in an exam room at the prom.
Yes.
Last night, you and Shepard did it.
Yes.
You and McDreamy did the nasty.
Christina!
I'm not judging. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. I mean, you're with Finn. He's with Addison.
He's married to Addison.
Yeah. Well, what did Derek say?
He said, Meredith, what does this mean?
Okay, so he has sex with you, and he's standing there all McGuilty, and all he can say for himself is, what does this mean? What does this mean?
I don't know.
Are you going back to Finn? Is Shepard leaving his wife?
Yeah.
And then this is one of the biggest flashbacks of the show.
Yeah.
I will say that this is probably the biggest flashback of the show.
Oh yeah.
Because guys, season 11 actually referenced some of this stuff. And you know how I love it when they take something they've already created and bring it back later? Season 11 actually did it. And I was beyond impressed. And then they ruined it. But that's not the point.
I feel like, in a way, this flashback is kind of like almost like a theme for this season, but also like
for the show.
Sure, the show, yeah. But like it comes up a lot in this season, though.
Yeah, carousels and everything. Yeah, and all these flashbacks, honestly, if you watch them, they kind of show you where the season is going.
Yes,
it's fascinating.
Yes. And I also enjoy the fact that, because at first I feel like when we got the first flashback, like you said, you were like, oh, is this just going to be Izzie? Mm-hmm. And then we get a Meredith flashback. But that's, like, it's not even, like, her at the intern party. It's something completely different, like, doesn't even have to do with any of the other interns.
Exactly.
I like that.
Me too. I think that was a great choice.
Yeah.
And also, the order in which we're presented the flashbacks are super important. I'll explain it more later. So, Quicksand by Sleeping at Last is the song playing here. And Meredith slips into another one of her fugue states, and her other personality takes over. And we have this convenient flashback, which, if you pay attention on a rewatch, literally sets up the entire season for Meredith. And she is on the carousel, age 5. The carousel never stops turning. Flashback to, like, season 2, episode 5, when Ellis goes, the carousel never stops turning. When she was lucid for that moment, she was just like, Meredith, you grew up. It's a shame. It's awful being a grown-up. But the carousel never stops turning. Yeah. This is the holy grail for people that love this backstory.
For people.
For all humans. And Ellis screams, Meredith, hold on with 2 hands. And in typical Meredith fashion, instead of doing what she's told, she does the exact opposite. And she lets go with both hands, and she, like, I got this screenshot of young Meredith looking like she's high on, like, Oxy.
She probably is.
She's, like, at a rave at, like, a Miley Cyrus, like music video right now. It's hysterical. And she's wearing her little pink jacket, which...
Adorable.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's important that we see her as this little innocent girl... Mm-hmm. in the same exact episode that they start calling her dark and twisty. Because she didn't start that way. You know what I mean? She started as this adorable, innocent little kid, and then she grew into this dark and twisted woman.
Can you imagine if it, like, gets to this flashback, and then all of a sudden it, like, flashes over to little Meredith, and she's, like, got, like, a lip ring, and, like, dyed, like, blue hair or something, wearing, like, all black.
Well, in high school, that's what she had.
Well, yeah, but, like, as, like, a 5-year-old, like, just on this carousel, like, Mom, this is stupid.
Hold on with 2 hands, and she's like, yeah. Oh, this picture. Anyway, so then we get young Ellis and young the Chief, and I liked it how they didn't, like, zoom in on them, because it's not about them, it's about how they affect Meredith. So we get it from Meredith's point of view.
I was about to say, and it's
going around in circles. She only sees flashes.
It's Meredith's flashback, so,
yeah.
like, in theory, like, she doesn't even know, really. I mean, like, she kind of knows what they're talking about, but, like, not really. Like,
that's always fascinating to me, though. Like, when you think back to things that you heard as a little kid, and you're like, as an adult, when you rethink about it, you're like, oh, that's what they meant. Mm-hmm. You know, like, that's what they were talking about. I get it now because I'm an adult. That's kind of what Meredith is going through. It's like she's recontextualizing all these interactions she saw as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and it's basically, like, the Chief coming back and being like, I'm not leaving Adele or whatever. It's that moment. And you're like, ooh.
And, like, that moment when Kate Burton, like, hugs herself almost and is crying. We've never seen Ellis Gray, like, break down. She's the strong one, you know? So this is interesting.
This scene is, like, so heartbreaking in some ways because, like, I feel like this almost gives you, like, a thing of, like, is this Meredith's future? Like,
yeah,
you know?
I know.
And you almost feel bad for Alice, and then you're like,
I do. I feel bad for Alice.
And then she comes in later this season, and I'm like, no.
I feel bad because, not so much for Ellis specifically, but just the situation that the Chief and Ellis were in, you know? Mm-hmm. Because I think if things had gone differently, it could have been a great love, like Meredith and Derek.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, so then we get Addison meeting the 4 possible mothers for this child.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but right away I discounted 2 of them. And just looking at them, like, I'm not going to say who I discounted, but I will say that I was right. So we have Sarah, Shannon, Lisa, and Karen. Karen rising like a snake. Look what you made me do.
I want to know which ones you discounted.
I'm not going to tell you.
Will you tell me later?
Yeah.
Okay. Their parents are hilarious.
They're hilarious, but annoying at the same time.
And just, listen, you have my consent to do whatever it takes to prove my Lisa's innocence. Okay.
I love that. You are a sick bastard, you know that. That was funny to me. Anyway, so let's just keep going. So hilarious. Derek and George in the locker room, this is where they get, like, kind of quarantined because
of the plague.
They might have the plague.
I just love it. Like, they're like, George is like, yeah, I'm going to the house. And Derek's like, yeah, me too. And George is like, no, like, I don't think Izzie's up for many people. And Derek's like, I don't give a shit about Izzie. I'm going to see Meredith.
Exactly. It's just like, I didn't even know Izzie was having a hard time until, like, 30 minutes ago when you told me in the OR.
I don't care. Yeah. Which, like, can I be real? Like, when they were like, you guys might have the plague, and they, like, were bringing this whole thing up, I was like, really? Like, how the hell does someone nowadays, like, possibly come in contact with the plague? Like, were they just tromping around, like, 14th century, like, Western Europe or whatever? Like, I
don't know, man.
Black Death. But I looked it up, and there's actually, like, still, like, to this day, like, 650 about documented cases of the plague, like, a year. Mm-hmm. And the disease is most common in Africa, according to Wikipedia, so, you know.
But, grain of salt.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously the plague is a plot device. It's very obvious, that it is. But this is one that I actually support a lot because it's interesting. It breaks up the usual way that Grey's Anatomy episodes go, with, like, patients, lunch scene, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It breaks it up in a really nice way. It gives 2 characters that don't get to interact much a chance to interact. And we see so much growth in Derek.
Yeah.
In Derek in this episode. Which shocked me.
The one thing that I love, like, about the whole, like, plague thing, I love the, like, quarantine scenes.
Yeah.
It's And not only, like, we had, like, all that growth and stuff, but I also love, like, we get scenes later of, like, Derek just, like, going through, like, the interns' lockers, and George is like, you can't just do that. And he's like, I'm Derek.
Yeah, and Derek just, like, pulls a Meredith. Like, this is why they belong together, because he's just like, I'm Derek, bitch. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to mention this real quick. Omar's in quarantine, like, snooze, who cares? And he goes, how many days have I been in here? And Bailey goes, it's only been a few hours. And it feels like days that he's been a patient, because he's that boring.
This is a super overdramatic storyline, but there are, like, some little aspects that I like about it.
Coming up.
Yes, and I will point them out. But yes, it's like this whole thing of like, I'm in quarantine, and Bailey's like, I'll help you, and I'm like, ugh.
It's like, put your hands on my hands.
And I'm like, where's Meredith?
Yeah, exactly. Meredith would be like, get your ass up. Anyway,
where's Meredith?
Speaking of Meredith is unfortunately with Callie. And Callie,
I love this.
Yeah, me too.
Because she, like, answers the door, and Callie looks disgusted to see her, and Meredith looks equally, like, as disgusted to see her.
Like, yeah, they both don't want to see each other, and
then,
it's
like,
great.
Callie's, like, trying to come in, and Meredith is, like, not inviting her in.
Yeah, I know. Classic Meredith. I love it. And Callie's just like, I brought food. And then Meredith is like, well, George isn't here, so get out. Yeah, exactly. And she goes, I know, he's in quarantine because of the thing, and I was worried about him, and I was off duty and going crazy, and well, at least she admits it. And then I thought about Izzie, yeah. So I brought food. And it's like, you know what? Callie is that person that is totally okay with hating Izzie until the moment, like, someone dies, and then she's like, ooh, I need to, like, be nice to Izzie. You know?
Well, and I feel like it's also, like, a thing of, like, I'm gonna be nice to Izzie so George will like me more.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But, like, I actually don't mind Callie in this episode. Maybe it's because she's actually kind of being sort of a nice person in some ways, whatever. But, like, also her hair is still horrid.
It's still horrid.
Like, Izzie has been lying on the bathroom floor, like, presumably all night, and it still looks better than Callie's.
Yeah, seriously. What? And I like Meredith. For the Shiva, are you gonna let me in? Maybe Callie's a vampire. Like, she needs to be invited in to cross the threshold.
I just love that. Are you gonna let me in? Well, because Meredith also is, like, standing, like, right in front, like, don't come in.
And isn't there, like, a door in between them, too? Like, she keeps the screen door there. And I'm like, in your fucking face, Callie.
And then I just love, like, relax, I'm not gonna bring it up. You and McDreamy the sex. You just brought it up, Callie.
Yeah, I'm not that person. It's like, well, clearly you are, because you just did. But I do like how Grace does this. These little quirky things. Is it Shiva if Izzie's Catholic?
Yeah, I liked...
Like, everyone knows she's Catholic. It's like a thing that runs through the whole episode. It's so easy to do, but it adds a lot.
I liked that, yeah. That was cute.
Anywho.
So then we cut to Christina lying on the floor with Izzie. I also like how you get... Like, George, the first one, he was kind of, like, turned towards Izzie, like, his hands are there. Christina's just, like, flat out, like, on her back, like, hands on her stomach.
Completely like, comfortable, yeah.
Like, hi.
And, no, but I also like how each intern brings their own touch of personality, and they all do help her in one way or another. Because intern bond, man.
I love it. Like, she's like, it's not healthy. I mean, you gotta take off that dress. And Izzie's like, shut up.
She's like, tell me about Shiva, bitch. Yeah, and, yeah, so how does it work? People bring over food, which is interesting. Like, I never even knew how Shiva worked until this show taught me. Mm-mm. And
I mean, like, I feel like it's kind of a thing across, like, religions or whatever that, like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, people bring food. It's not like, like, they have, like, more of the traditional things and they're like, oh, it's 7 days or whatever. Which is...
7 is always a huge number on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Every time you hear 7...
like, because usually, like, like, people have, like, funerals, and then, like, there's usually, like, this big thing, and, like, like, food is always, like, a big thing in whatever.
I like this, like, no sitting on things higher than a foot, no shaving, no... And Izzie's like, what? And Christina's like, no clean clothes. And that, like, really hits you, because that means that Izzie would have to sit in that dress for 7 more days, you know?
Which also, like, how bad would you smell after 7 days? Like...
Pretty bad. And Christina goes, Izzie, this doesn't have to be Shiva. What does that mean?
I think it was kind of like, maybe this doesn't necessarily, like, have to follow the rule. Like,
yeah, you can just make up your own rules. Like, there's no right way to grieve, maybe?
I think so. Like, there's no right or wrong way of, like, how you're, like, grieving, honoring the dead, like... Because, like, it's also, like, we were talking about, like everyone was like, is it Shiva if she's Catholic? And I'm like, I don't think in Catholic, like, I think they have something that's, like, like, dead thing, but I don't think it's, like, the no leather shoes, no work, no set, like, no clean clothes, like, that stuff. I think it was, like, the closest, like, I mean, they're all trying to get her out of this dress.
Yeah.
But
I like Katherine Heigl. Like, they don't give her a big speech until well through the episode, but her performances almost work better because they don't let her talk too much until halfway through, So she goes, they took his body away. I'll never see him again. How would you feel if you never saw Burke again? So we're sitting Shiva for Denny.
Yeah.
Cut back to the parents. This father is like a piece of work. I know for a fact my Lisa's a virgin.
And how do you know that?
Because she's 14 years old.
They're all 14.
Yeah, they're all 14, you idiot. I found that freaking hilarious.
I know for a fact my Lisa is a virgin. Oh, like, do you, sir? Like, how do you know that for, like, 100%? Like,
yeah, it's like white, like, patriarchy here. And he's just like, well, my daughter's a virgin. It's like, really?
And his reasoning, too. He's like, because she's only 14 years old. And they're like, they all are. Like, shut up.
And one of them gave birth to a kid.
Yeah, like, shut up. I also would love, because they don't actually, like, when they tell us, like...
So now we get the flashback that we never knew we needed until we got it. And now I can't imagine not having it.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine this coming across at a table read and being Kate and Patrick and being like, okay, damn, we have to do this. Like, wow.
Like... Out of all of the like, I know we talked a lot about the whole carousel thing and how that's gonna be a big theme. That one didn't hit me really until, like, later in the season kind of thing. This one, for me, like, all the flashbacks in this episode, this one is the one that, like...
It's almost cringing. Like, you cringe but love it at the same time.
It's also just, like, how angry Derek gets.
Patrick playing angry
scary.
Derek is terrifying. Like, it's actually scary because you believe it so much. And that touch, touch of Addison pulling up her underwear is just savage.
And Kate Walsh, like, looking completely, like, desperate and, like, ugh.
It's hard to this...
I have goosebumps talking about it.
To this day, it's hard for me to watch that scene. I've seen it at least 20
It's one of those
times.
scenes, it's like, it's so hard to watch, but you want to watch it. Like,
yeah. Because it's just so much fun because they are so good at acting.
Also, my question throughout this whole thing. So this flashback is, like, after he caught her with Mark. Is Mark still in the house? Okay.
I think Mark left.
Can you imagine they, like, have this whole thing and then Mark just, like, walks down the stairs like, I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, he's like, so... Okay, but if we flash back to season 2, episode 1, he describes this night. He goes, I walk in my house.
Yeah.
Everything's the same, nothing's wrong, but yet something's different. And so we see the moment after he discovers them, And we also have heard that, like, Mark was like, I was actually in the throes with his wife, and he just walks away. So presumably he went upstairs, stepped in Mark's jacket, walked in, saw what was happening, and then just turned around and walked away. Mark left, and then this happened. It was like delayed rage.
But it's also still, like, it's not even, like... I don't know, like, like, he's not yelling.
Well, he kind of... Well, not... Yeah.
It's like a weird rage.
Yeah.
But
it's very Derek. So he, like, literally takes a bunch of her clothes and just, like... Oh, gosh. I don't even want to do this dialogue because I don't think we can do it justice. And you guys have already watched the scene. But just the, like, get out of my house. And then, like, he physically pushes her out, which was scary to me. Because, like, he's McDreamy, he's Mr. Charming.
It's scary.
Yeah.
I also like, because they do this kind of shot where you can, like, like, has her hands on the glass. And I like this little part. I noticed this. I don't know if you'll think this is as cool as I did, but, like, later we get the scene where, like, Bailey puts her hands on the glass for Omar to touch, and that's, like, a comfort. And if you'll notice, Derek and Addison's hands are not lining up. Like, his one hand is not even on the glass. And so I think that's cool. It's of, like, the thing of, like, he's not even, like, he knows how distressed she is, but he is, like, so...
Not comforting her.
Oh, yeah, and, like, so not, like...
And this is their Central Park brownstone, by the way, that they referenced in season 2. But, yeah, just the choice of that frosted glass. Like, I mean, beautiful shot. This might be one of the most beautiful, like, framed and just one of the best, like, things that they did in this episode.
Yeah. So then we get the song Nothing Brings Me Down by
Emiliana Torrini.
Yeah.
And Addison, like...
He lets her back in.
And she, like, hugs him and tries to kiss him. And I was like, ooh, Addison, no, sweetie. Read your audience.
Well, I think she was like, oh, like, he's going to try, like, because he let me back in. Like, he's okay. And then he does it as this, like, I'm going to go, you stay.
Yeah.
And then you're, like, and then I look at you and I feel nauseous. And you're, oh, my God.
Yeah.
The way Patrick Dempsey delivers all of these.
And he goes, we're not Derek and Addison anymore. And it's just like, if you go now, we won't get through this. And in a way, she was right.
If you go now, we don't have a chance.
Yeah. Ugh.
So.
Yeah. And I also kind of like the touch of how they dressed him very New York.
Oh, yes.
You know, he looks very New York, very East Coast. Mm-hmm. And then when he gets out to Seattle, he looks like a fucking fisherman that, like, jumped out of an L.L. Bean magazine.
Literally, like, on the plane over, he just, like, orders, like, 10,000 things from LL Bean. Like,
he didn't fly, remember? He drove.
Oh, in this trip, that's right. Okay, I keep messing all these things up, good lord.
Yeah. But, like, amazing. When we first met Addison, we, like, legit hated her. And now we see this scene and we sympathize with both sides.
Oh, yeah. Like, if they had showed us this, you know, like, the first time when he was talking, like, telling Meredith kind of, like, what happened.
In 201, yeah.
We would have been like...
She's terrible.
Basically, like, F her, like, we hate her, or whatever. And so I like the fact that they chose to do it later. Not then, but later, when, like, you're watching this and you're like, I don't know who I feel worse for.
Mm-hmm. But what's weird is that listen to what Shonda says about it. Like, this is what Shonda wrote. And she sees it differently than we do. Do you want to take this?
Sure. She goes, because what Addison did to Derek is so much worse than what happened between Meredith and Derek in that exam room at the end of the season. I wanted us to remember that she betrayed him long before he betrayed her, and that Addison herself is suffering over her choice to have an affair.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
How we saw that scene and we were like, oh my god, I feel bad for Addison. And Derek, obviously. But, like, I also feel bad for Addison.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of that scene was to be like, Addison is terrible, she's evil.
I don't know if it was necessarily, like, that she's evil, but, like, you know, like, yes, we feel bad, like, that Addison kind of just discovered all of this. Like, he kind of, you know, just cheated on her. But it's also, I think, like, a reminder of, like, this is where they've come from kind of thing, like...
Contextualize it with that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, I love the thing that she said about, like, and that Addison herself is suffering over her choice to have an affair.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, because it brings a lot more meaning to, like, her finding, I think, like, Meredith's, like, panties and all that stuff. And, like, do you think looking at that, she is, like, thinking back to, like, her choice to sleep with Mark?
Well,
and,
we
like,
know she is. This is her flashback.
You know, like,
yeah.
It makes that scene so much more interesting, because she's not just like, my husband is horrible, like, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know, it's interesting.
Mm. So that actually is where the commercial was. So, can you imagine seeing that and then going straight into commercial?
I think I'd just be like, what?
Yeah. So we come back and the song Gone Daddy Gone by Nars Barkley is playing. And we come back into a flashback, which is kind of cool. It's Christina's flashback. She is, quote, circling around Burke.
She's, like, stalking Burke.
Who's, like, giggling with this other woman on a couch.
Which is so un-Burke-like.
I know.
I, like, saw this and I was like, did he, like, completely change personalities between, like, this and, like, season 1 episode, like, in the pilot?
Reprogramming.
Yeah. He, like, had to, like, recharge.
And she finally, you know, gathers the courage to walk up to him, but she has zero social skills, so she can't pick up on the fact that, like...
He wants her gone.
Yeah, exactly. Burke is like, please get out of here. Look at this hot babe that I scored.
He is. He's also wearing, like, this weird, like, purple-y pink color.
Yeah, he's, like, wearing colors, which is
weird.
Amazing. And this woman's face...
She has the biggest, like, stank face. Look right here.
She's like,
nah. She's like, get the hell away from my man.
She's like, don't touch my man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but does this change the way that you look at their relationship? Because when he gave her coffee in 105, it's because he knows that she's pretty much a slam dunk.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because that was not the vibe that I got.
Yeah.
When I first watched it.
I almost don't like that as much because it seems less innocent.
I think this was the one flashback that I was kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
You know? But whatever.
Yeah. Anyway. So then we cut over to Meredith, who is also in this flashback with George. And they're just like they're essentially like reframing the pilot of the show. And I think it's like, how interesting would that be for one, a writer, and two, an actor to kind of go back to the character? Like, now you know your character so much better, and you have this rare opportunity to go back and play who they were in the pilot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's actually genius. And it makes new viewers want to go back to the pilot.
Oh, yeah. And that's basically Shonda tells you to, like, do that. Mm-hmm. You know, she says, like, go back to the first episode of Grey's Anatomy. If you pay attention to the dialogue and the details, you'll be rewarded in this premiere episode with some, hopefully, very interesting tidbits, which I liked. Like, it was cool. I haven't gone back and rewatched the pilot since, but I think I might. Like,
I definitely compared these. And she goes, these are for the hardcore fans. And I was just like, thank you.
I also love, we get, like, even, like, Meredith is just flat out ignoring George.
I know. And she's staring at the chief, which, like, sets up the fact that she's suspicious right away.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, recontextualizes her first interaction with the chief in the pilot when he goes, you're the spitting image of your mother, you know?
And she's just like...
you would know better than anyone, bitch.
I also, just, like... In this, like, this was... You know, you talked about the whole earlier thing, like, Alex said the thing, and you're like, and she still slept with him. And, like, George does the same thing. Like, he's talking, and Meredith flat out walks away in the middle of, like, one of his sentences. And yet, he still never got the hint that she wasn't into him.
I know. And he mentions San Diego, like he mentions in 226.
Yeah.
And that he still lives with his mother, which he mentions in 102. And it's just, like, interesting like that, you know? And Meredith's dress. He describes her dress in the pilot, like...
The strappy sandals.
Strappy sandals slid up the side. Yeah, and she's
I'm
wearing it, which is, wow.
Whatever.
Cut back to George and Derek, and they just start eating people's, like, stuff out of the lockers. And I love this Derek. I really do, because we haven't seen this Derek before, and I love him.
Dr. Shepard, those are people's personal... That's Alex's apple. That's just fruit.
And he goes, we're dead men, O'Malley.
Hilarious.
Now here we go. Meredith finally talking to Izzie. Oh, nope. I'm a little bit. She's talking to Callie.
Which, like,
so
what?
she's found a new victim that she can talk about herself to.
She's literally like, at first she did not want Callie to come into this, and then she was like, well, you're here. I'll use you.
Yeah, you know, make yourself useful, and I'll talk to you.
And then who should enter but Dr. Finn Dandruff?
Who is mysteriously 6 months older than he was last night. New haircut, by the way. And I just love this, and if I am dark and twisty, it's because I live my life under a banner of avoidance. I avoid. I'm an avoider. And then immediately when he comes in, she's like, I gotta go check on Izzie.
He's like, hey, so can we talk? And she's just like, Izzie!
She's like, nope, see ya. Then we cut to what I actually want to do the dialogue for. Is Meredith and Izzie's interaction. Because, you know what's funny? All the interns are right. Meredith was the person that Izzie needed to talk to. And so do you want to be Meredith?
I guess.
Did you want to be Izzie?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't know what to say to you.
When Dylan died, when the bomb went off, did you feel like...
What?
Like you were moving in slow motion?
We weren't. He was there, and then he wasn't. Like, I blinked, and he was gone.
I feel like I'm moving in slow motion. Like I'm moving in slow motion, and everything around me is moving so fast, and I just want to go back to when things were normal. When I wasn't poor Izzie lying on the bathroom floor in her prom dress with her dead fiancé. But I am, so I can't. And I'm just stuck. And there's all this pressure because everyone's hovering around me and waiting for me to do something or say something or flip out or yell or cry some more, and I'm happy to play my part. I'm happy to say the lines and do whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing if it will make everyone feel more comfortable, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be this person. I don't know who this person is.
Izzie.
How did this happen? How did we end up here? Why am I alone? Where's Denny?
You're not alone, Iz.
Yeah. In my top 5 Izzie Meredith moments. And by the way, that is such a hard speech to deliver. As you saw, I messed up at least 5 times. And, like, Catherine does it perfectly.
This right here is the scene that destroyed me the first time I watched it. Like, when Meredith, like, reaches out, like, with her hand and it says, like, the "you're not alone" is, I was, like, on the ground bawling.
Yeah,
like,
when she
had
says,
to pause it. Like,
when she says "is," first of all, she, like, holds her hand, and Izzie, like, genuinely seems like she loves Meredith in this scene. You know, like, she generally seems like that helped her, and that she, well, like, "you're not alone" is just, like, such a universal, like, goes across cultures.
Comfort.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and they're both, like, crying. Like, Meredith is, like, almost crying when she says the line, and Izzie's teary-eyed. It's amazing.
So then we cut back to Derek and George.
Yeah. And really, honestly, I don't want to go through all this because I'm sure you watched the episode. And George goes, "I don't think she'll ever be the same." Okay, so for all you guys out there, how I've told you that, like, specific lines of dialogue get stuck in my head, like normal people get songs stuck in their head, this is one of them. I, like, find myself saying this it's weird. I love this line. It's something about this line just stuck with me. He goes, "You know, there are moments, O'Malley, where all of a sudden in a split second your life changes forever. Before you know it, you're somewhere else." And this is possibly, like, I am so glad that they decided to go here and show this Meredith and Derek moment, because if they got too much older, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it wouldn't have worked. And they needed to do this while they both pretty much still looked the same as they did in the pilot, to say it frankly, you know?
But, this is so cute. He is, like, flat out staring at her.
Well, do you want to do the song?
Oh, I missed the song. Where'd it go? Oh, "Under the Milky Way" by Grant Lee Phillips is playing. Mm-hmm. And also, like, this is presumably, you know, like, just maybe, like, a week or so after he's left New York, you know, because presumably the next day he got up and left and drove across the country. So maybe, like, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Not too long. And he looks completely different.
He's wearing his red shirt, his good-looking shirt.
You know, like, he looks like a West Coast, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, he looks very different. And he is, like, flat out staring at the back of Meredith's head.
Yeah, Joe mysteriously has shorter hair than he did in 201, so that means he grew 10 inches of hair in 2 months.
Oops.
Yeah. I just like the straight tequila. "You are going to be sorry in the morning. I'm always sorry in the morning." And then Joe is just like, "We're going to be friends."
"You're going to be my best customer."
Meredith's shit show of a life. I swear to God. I mean, like, who does this? Who slams shots of tequila the day before you start a new job? Derek's like, "Target acquired."
I know, but then, like, he goes out and picks up a girl in a bar the day before he starts his new
job. I know.
job.
See, they belong together. You know Dr. Finn Dandruff's not doing this shit.
He was probably birthing a horse.
Yeah. He's just like, "I have to birth a horse." Dr. Finn Dandruff. Double Scotch, single malt. That's his go-to. And then he flirts like a man who's been married for 11 years. He goes, "So, is this a good place to hang out?" And you're like, ooh.
And she, like, at first, noticeably, like, you can kind of see on her face that she's just like, "Go away." Like, exactly. "I wouldn't know, I've never been here before." Like, you know, like, she's very subtly being like, "Why are you talking to me?" And he's just, like, smiling there, like, "Hi."
And he goes, "You're ignoring me." "Trying to." "Well, you shouldn't ignore me." "Why not?" That made me flash back to the, "I won't even try to kiss you." "Why not?" Meredith. And then he says, "Because I'm someone you need to get to know to love."
Which, like, who just says that to some random person in a bar?
You know what? It worked.
That's so true. Maybe that's, like, the pickup line that we need to use.
Yeah.
"Hi, I'm Emily. I'm someone you need to get to know to love." And people will be like, "What?"
And then it's the, "You really like yourself, huh? Just hiding my pain," which is true. And so what's your story? "I don't have a story. I'm just a girl in a bar." And he goes, I'm just a guy in a bar. And that's it. And, like, Joe is looking on this, like, smiling, like... He's like, these two, I'm going to be attending their wedding.
My creation.
Yeah, he's just like, you're welcome.
Like, and how did the bar not just, like, blow up and explode into flames after this? Because the chemistry between the two of them, even when she's like, I'm acting like, oh, I don't want to talk to you.
I know. Her face, like, subtly changing naturally from, like, I don't like you to being, like, intrigued and happy with him is, like, Ellen Pompeo's micro expressions. My God, the chemistry these two have. And I would have loved it if they just had, like, Joe in the background just, like, pouring cold water on himself, being like, oh my God.
Cool it down.
I know.
He just, like, brings a fan over, like, gotta cool you guys down.
Yeah. So then Shonda had this to say. There's none of the baggage that they have now. I just love when Meredith says, so if I know you, I'll love you. So sure that she never will. That he's just another guy. And when Derek asks Meredith what her story is, she says, I'm just a girl in a bar. And we know that she's not. We know about her mother and her daddy issues and her soft spot for sleeping with inappropriate men. But here, she's just a girl in a bar. And Derek says he's just a guy. But unlike the first episode of Grey's Anatomy, we know about his wife. And we just saw his pain at discovering Addison's infidelity. And this is the split second, the moment they meet, that has changed the course of both of their lives forever.
Wow.
And it's true.
She should be a writer.
LOL. This is what I was talking about, why it's important that we get certain flashbacks in a certain order.
Oh, okay.
It had to be in this order, you know?
Yeah, because we had to get his pain first.
Yeah.
Before this. Gotcha.
And then we, like, almost immediately cut over to Addison, and she's kind of explaining, I think, what she was thinking almost. Like, something happens, you panic, you freeze, and you hide it, and pretend like it didn't happen. I get that. You know? And then she goes, what I don't get is how you pretend everything's fine. Everything is not fine.
Because, like, I think she's, one, like, talking about kind of, like, the cheating on Derek, you know, like, her affair. But I think in also, like, some ways she might be talking about, like, her finding the panties. Like, how does she go on from that? How is she, like, supposed to be able to be at work and pretend like everything's okay?
Or how is, like, Derek shouldn't be just pretending that everything is fine. Because he's been doing that all season 2.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we get this drawn-out scene of Omar losing various bodily fluids, including sweat, drool, and tears.
When you say that, like, him, like, losing various bodily fluids, I just, like, picture him, like, blowing up and, like, blood, like, squirting everywhere.
This scene spans a fucking commercial. Like, we have, like, a good 30 seconds of it, and then it's the same scene when we come back. It's the longest, most boring scene of Grey's Anatomy to date.
Like, I think the one cool part about it, I do like the hands on the glass thing, how it's, like, supposed to be, like, a comfort here, but we have, like, the comparison to the Addison Derek flashback. I like that little part, and then I like the, like, Bailey line where she's like, I wish I could turn back the clock and make it yesterday. You don't know how much I wish that, but I can't turn back time.
Yeah, and then Omar goes, I should have taken over, and she goes, I should have taken over too.
Yeah.
Which is important for next episode. Remember that.
Well, it's also, like, when she says, you know, like, I wish I could turn back the clock and make it yesterday, she doesn't give a shit about Giselle. Yeah,
nobody really does.
She's talking about her own life.
Yeah. She's pulling a Meredith.
You know? But I kind of like that. Like, I don't know.
What just annoyed me about this scene is the guy playing Omar is acting so hard in this scene. He is acting like there is no tomorrow.
Well, interesting. I just came up with a kind of something. But, like, because then Bailey goes, you know, like, we can't go back. Look, even if, like, you can't help him now. And I feel like that kind of connects back to what Addison was saying, like, how do you pretend like everything's okay? And then you kind of get this scene where they're like, it's okay that, like, not everything's okay. And, like, you have these people of, like, they know that they're not pretending that, like, nothing happened.
I'm not talking about from a character point of view. I'm talking from the show is being too over.
Well, yes, I know.
Take it down.
I just realized that, and I was like, huh, interesting. But whatever. Yes, no, definitely, like,
The show is taking itself so seriously.
A little bit.
Can you relax? Anyway, so we're back in the intern locker room. They got the bench, like, covered in food now. And there was, like, this little sign on one of the lockers. Guitar for sale. Great deal. $200. See Don. And then it goes, rock on. It made me think of, like, season 2, episode 5 when Izzie said that. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So then we get the scene where, like, George thinks he's dying. And then, like...
Yeah.
Dialogue?
Yeah, do you want to do the dialogue?
Sure.
I guess I'll be Derek.
Okay. Is it hot in here?
No.
Then why am I sweating?
Because you're pacing.
My pulse is rapid.
Because you're still pacing.
Feel me.
No, I'm not going to feel you.
Seriously.
Seriously, no.
You're an ass. You've lived. You've done things. And you have the hair and the hot wife and the beautiful ex-mistress who's pining for you.
She's pining for me?
My point is, you've lived. If you die, who cares?
I can't think of a few people.
If I die, what? This is it? Callie told me she loved me, and I just sat there. I mean, I wasn't ready. But now I'm gonna die, and not even get a chance to say I love you back. Sorry. I just Callie told me she loved me, and I just sat there.
Like a bag of rocks.
And then I left with his.
Yeah, and then he was just like, I'm gonna leave with this way more attractive, better-haired lady than you.
Anyway.
Do you? Do you love her?
Maybe. Eventually, I could. Maybe the one day, soonish.
Soonish? I will love you soonish?
You ever tell Meredith? You ever tell her that you love her?
No.
I did. I'm with Callie. It's different.
You should tell her, even if it's soonish. You should tell her before it's too late.
You mean before I die of the plague?
Before somebody else comes along. Like, Derek is like... So, in the end of this episode, he says, this morning I was going to come over and say, blah, blah, blah. But now, it's like... Oh, it's fascinating. Because we see him on this journey changing in his head what he wants to tell Meredith. And so it's so good that this happened to him because he has enough time to figure out what the right thing to say is, you know?
Well, I also think it's interesting to also think of the generation parallel because in a way this is almost like the Chief and Thatcher talking and like Thatcher almost giving like advice. Like, so it's very interesting in like the whole parallel kind of scheme and the whole thought of like that George used to be like completely in love with Meredith and now he's kind of the one that's like...
And I like how George is very good at reading people and picking up on things, I think, because he doesn't ask, like, that's an inappropriate question to ask your boss. Did you ever tell Meredith that you loved her? But he knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he can tell that...
Is there any inappropriate questions in this hospital?
He can tell that Addison is not who Derek loves now. And that just seems like a given to the audience. Yeah. But if you actually step back and realize that that is George asking his boss, who is married, like, he goes, did you ever tell Meredith? And it, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell that, like, he's picking up on this. Everyone knows. Dogs know that Derek doesn't love Addison
Except
anymore.
Derek, because he doesn't know anything.
I think he knows now.
Well, now he does, but... And also, because we have this whole thing, and Shonda says, George and Derek are stuck in the locker room, quarantined, where they end up discussing the merits of love and saying, I love you. And I think a wonderfully unexpected parallel is drawn between George and his feelings for Callie and Derek and his feelings for Meredith.
Right. And it's this parallel, but at the same time, there's only one that feels strongly enough about the other to go through with it. Then we cut back to the intern OTP house, and this is an extended line, and it is, I want to award this the line of the episode. The line of the episode. Meredith walks into the kitchen, and Callie and Finn are having a good old time talking about whatever, and Christina's just sitting there, like, pissed off, and she walks up to Meredith, and she goes, he tells boring animal stories, and she's too stupid to care. And then walks away, and I was like, Christina, that is the greatest thing I think anyone has ever said about Callie.
It's lines like these that make Christina quite possibly my favorite character.
Yeah.
And then I like this line that Callie says, another line that Callie says that I love, and the whole like, I'm gonna leave the room for a period of time for no reason whatsoever. And
this is what Sarah Ramirez can do. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
The way she delivers that line is so great. Sarah Ramirez is good with, like, comedic lines. That's where she excels. Where she doesn't excel is, unfortunately, like, the drama and, like, jealousy storylines, and that's all they give her. Anyway.
Yeah, so then Finn and Meredith kind of have this huge moment.
Is it huge, though? I mean,
Well, it's just this thing. Basically, he goes, you know, like...
Well, basically, don't recap it. Let's just analyze it. The two big things that we see here is that Finn's pissed off. He's saying, like, you know, we weren't exclusive. But I like how he says, Derek, he's bad for you. And that's something that Finn does not. He latches on to that point
a lot.
Until he leaves this show.
Yes.
He will continue to say that, which is kind of like a brave choice by the writers to have somebody say, these two that you've been rooting for are not healthy together. And in a way, it's kind of true.
Yeah, it's like, he kind of has a point.
Yeah. So Shonda says, I like that he's not petty or easily made jealous. I like that he's confident enough to stick. And I love that he says that Derek is bad for her. And he is a good thing. There is some truth to it, given the history of Mare and Dare. And Finn is a rescuer guy. You know, rescuer guys, right? They're the ones who are determined to break through the scary and damaged barrier we dark and twisty girls put up. Shut up, Shonda. How dare you put yourself in the same category as Meredith? They're the real thing, rescuer guys. They're the guys you marry.
And another important thing, the whole, like, he goes, if there's a race, if there is a ring, my hat is in. Yeah. Important for the next couple episodes.
Remember we talked about that? We were like, do you think Finn is kind of a fixer? Like, he sees broken people and wants to fix them?
He's a rescuer guy.
Which is
a fixer.
Which is toxic in its own way.
Yes.
But whatever.
I think Finn brings his own problems to it, but I think in the overall sense of things, like, it's like the Derek is bad for you, whatever.
In this episode, whenever Adele speaks to the chief about something, just imagine Addison hypothetically saying it to Derek in this episode, and it'll change the meaning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so do you want to read that, or you do?
Just Adele. Basically, this is the Chiefs' biggest storyline this season. It'll come full circle too. It's like, make a choice, Adele or the hospital. It's time for you to retire. And they set it up in episode 1, and it's
they also
great.
I feel like hinted at it in season 2 too.
Well, and
like,
in season 1,
you know, like it's kind of been built. Like it's not just like randomly she's like, you need to retire, and he's like, what the hell?
Well, this is the season where this takes the front.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then this line by Addison is another one of those ones that kind of gets stuck in my head when she's talking to Shannon and Sarah. And she goes, and the thing is, the truth, it will come out. In time, it will always come out. It always does. It just does. And when it does, this baby will be dead. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. Kate Walsh is now no longer tethered to that Derek storyline. She's just excelling on her own.
But it also, that line gives you the inkling that, like, something else was going on.
Yeah, right?
You know, like
she's hiding something still.
Yes. Like, there is something else. And we really don't, it's a while before we get an answer to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, 4 episodes.
Oh, really? I thought it was further back.
So much happens in this season.
I thought it was further back than that. But anyway.
And then this is another interesting line between Derek and George. Derek goes, I feel like we've been here for a very long time. I feel like it might be too late. And George goes, too late for what? Is Derek saying he wanted to talk to Meredith before Meredith talked to Finn?
I feel like this could be a lot of things. Like, he's too late. Like, is he too late in the sense that, like, Meredith has already halfway kind of moved on with Finn? Was that, like, the too late point?
Oh, like a grander too late?
Yeah, or, like, was it, like, it might be too late, like, I might have already done too much damage in the Meredith-me relationship?
Or, like, by not showing up this morning, I was an ass again?
Yeah, like, I feel like this could be taken, like, in a lot of different senses. Mm-hmm. Or, like, I feel like you could even go back and be like, he was too late to realize that he was kind of
in love with her,
but then also, like, I think you can even go back to, like, with Addison and be like, I was too late in realizing that I was acting indifferent towards her. Mm-hmm. like, I think it could be applied to a lot of different things, which is interesting because it's an ambiguous line and you can kind of take it.
Ambiguous lines are my
mean
jam.
Exactly, and I like that. And I like that we don't get the answer to that, but
Exactly. And then we get this quick little Alex line that I almost skipped over for this analysis podcast, but I actually wanted to read it because I think this is the first time Addison looks at Alex and isn't pissed off at him, and is more like, there's more to this guy than just the jerk, cocky douchebag.
Yeah.
And remember that Addison's face when Alex says this is exactly the same face that Izzie had in, like, season 1 when he was talking about his dad and being into drugs in season 1. And, I mean, Addison is one half Izzie, you know? And so this is cool.
Well, and I think this is another thing of, because we've made the connection a lot between Alex and Mark being very similar people. And I think this is a part where she kind of realizes that, like, he's not just Mark 2.0, you know? Like, I think she kind of starts realizing that, like, there might be something deep. Like, I don't know.
There might be something here.
I think
Although
that's like
Mark did have a bad childhood. But yeah.
Anyway. Well, maybe that's too. Maybe she's realizing, like, interesting.
I think she was just intrigued by, like...
There's more to this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's there on purpose, guys.
Oh, yeah. So then Derek just, like, come into, like, Meredith's house together. Like...
Yeah, Derek doesn't need a freaking invitation like Callie. He just walks in.
Yeah. Like, did they carpool over?
In my fan fiction, they carpool.
Like, jamming out to, like, some weird, like...
T-swizzle. Yeah. And Callie, of course, goes way too overboard.
Yes.
Like, she takes this corner on 2 wheels. It's like, settle down.
Well, and that's like, she's like, oh my god, I was so worried. And you're like, okay.
And George is like, ugh, God.
And then she, like, has this, like, creepy-eyed, like, look at him. And she goes, I really love you. And you're like, oh my god.
She looks at him with, like, mass murderer eyes.
Like, it's not like, I feel like it's meant to be, like, one of those things of, like, oh, I'm so in love with you. But it looks like, I'm thinking about what your blood tastes like, George.
Yeah,
like, that's what it looks like. And you're like, ew.
I can't wait to sink my teeth into your carotid artery. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Anyway.
To which George says nothing.
Yeah, George says nothing. He looks at her with this face like, duh. Like, his face is like, he's just like, oh.
Completely forgets about...
Hilarious.
Can you imagine, like, let's just take a moment, and can you imagine, like, she goes, George, I really love you, and, like, looks at you with those creepy eyes, and then he goes, I might love you soonish. Like, she probably would have been like, oh my god.
She'd be like, yes. Validation. Yeah. And
Can you just imagine that scene?
But Derek, him watching that last interaction between George and Callie is the final piece falling into place. And now I think he knows exactly what to say to Meredith in this next scene, because I think he was looking at George and Callie, and he was thinking back to, like, George is kind of letting her twist in the wind, and he's been doing the exact same thing to Meredith since Pick Me, Choose Me, Love Me. And I think he just realized it. Like that line from 225, the only 2 people that don't realize that Derek loves Meredith are Derek and Meredith. I think it literally just sunk into him. Yeah. And it's so satisfying.
This is really the big moment of this episode for Derek.
Interesting how it's Thatcher that gets him to...
Yeah, and, like, the parallel. That's what I was talking about, is, like, when you think about the parallels of the generation, so interesting.
It's Thatcher that gets him to tell the metaphorical Ellis how he feels.
Well, and I also, but, like, even in this, you know, like, not even thinking about the parallels, like, I love that it's George, like, the one who was basically pining after Meredith for so long, that's finally able to show Derek that he kind of needs to be honest with Meredith, but also I feel like needs to be honest with himself and be like, this is how I feel, and, like, I can't just ignore this or, like, push this aside.
Yeah. And hello, world. We're doing the dialogue. I'm Derek.
I'm Meredith, bitch.
Because I have it memorized. I love how he walks into the kitchen and sees her and instantly smiles. Like, he can't not, you know?
It's so cute.
And he goes, hi.
His smile throughout this whole scene.
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah. I was gonna come over this morning, but,
I heard the quarantine.
Yeah.
So what does this mean?
It means you have a choice to make. You have a choice to make. And I don't want to rush you into making a decision before you're ready. This morning I was going to come over, and I was going to say, what I wanted to say was, but now, all I can say is that I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you forever. I'm a little late. I know I'm a little late in telling you that. I want you to take your time, you know? Take all the time you need. Because you have a choice to make. And when I had a choice to make, I chose wrong. Literally nothing else. Like, that was
Swoon.
That was the perfect thing that he could have said.
Like, at first, throughout this whole episode, and even, like, when you're like, oh, yeah, like, Finn could be a good choice for Meredith. And then Derek says this, and you're like, Finn who? You're like, what?
Dr. Finn who?
You're like, Finn, like, Derek just showed you up.
Derek just took a shit on your speech. I hope you know that.
Finn's like, I'm a great guy. And Derek's like, I'm going to show you what I think about that.
It's like, watch this, bitch. Yeah. No, but that choice by Patrick to have, like, when he finally says, I love you out loud, you know, that choice to have Derek smile uncontrollably was perfect. Like, he breaks into this uncontrollable smile because he's so happy to finally tell her that he loves her, you know? And that line, and when I had a choice to make, I chose wrong. I still, to this day, remember the first time I heard that. And I remember my heart literally was beating fast. I was Meredith.
You're like, ah.
No, it was. Yeah. I got goosebumps and my heart
goosebumps
fluttered.
Right now. I've had like goosebumps this entire episode. Like, god damn it.
And I feel like Derek realizes all he has left with Meredith is complete honesty. And like, that's it. But like, Ellen tearing up during this scene. I've watched this scene at least 50 times, not exaggerating, and I still cry.
The two of them, like, Ellen and Patrick, just, every scene they do together, they just, like, knock out of the park.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, I don't think these scenes would have been as effective, like, if they were different actors. Like, they play it so well.
That's something that you can't predict when it comes to a TV show either.
And, like, the chemistry that they have together is amazing.
It's once in a decade, honestly. Like, Ellen has said that. She has come out and said, I will never have more chemistry with anybody. And I think she knows.
Isn't she married?
Well, acting.
I will never have any chemistry with anyone. And her husband's just like, wait, what?
No, but, like, it's so true.
I know what you mean.
And, you know, Patrick has come out and said the same thing. He said, from day one, we had chemistry. And he said we had more chemistry than it. Like, that's something that you can't plan for when you're writing a TV show. Shonda got so lucky.
So lucky.
Because they carry this show.
Speaking of Chandra, she says, that man says I love you better than anyone on the planet. Let me say a little something about McDreamy men. They are scary and damage themselves. They carry a little bit of tortured soul in them. And so Meredith is left with this choice between what her brain knows she should do and what her heart wants her to do. And while it seems obvious and easy, it's absolutely not. Finn has plans, and Derek's got a wife. And there's the choice to be healthy and mature and whole, and the choice to jump off the cliff. And I know Derek says that he loves her, but he says it about 20 episodes too late. But don't worry, I'm not dragging this out all season. I'm not going to drag it out very long at all. I like to move things forward.
LOL. Anyway, again, contradicting herself later. All I Need by Matt
Carney?
Carney?
Kearney?
I don't know. That's a really good song. It's the perfect song. And so we have this brief scene between Adele and the Chief in the exact same place where in 201, Addison and Derek were talking. Mm-hmm. Not a mistake.
Yes.
Those are the same characters. Mm-hmm. They're talking in literally the exact same place that Addison and Derek were talking in 201. And the Chief basically was like, I don't choose you. You know? Yeah. Over the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously he doesn't say, like, I hate you. Like, he just, like, I need more time. And she's just like, I don't have any more time to give.
Exactly.
And you're like, wow.
And it's like, you know what? Valid. And anyway, so Addison is a complete savage, and she hangs up Meredith's panties with a lost and found sign. And I was like, I love you, Addison. Like, so perfect.
I love that.
That's the most perfect way to deal with that situation, in my point of view. Mm-hmm. And then Burke, baby.
I know. Our
What?
favorite character has been like gone all episode.
I know. Ugh. And he goes, "Where have you been all day?" And I was like, "Same question, Isaiah Washington. He's just making the big bucks, doing nothing."
So cute. Like, where have you been all day?
And then she does this like she breaks down. She's like, "Don't ever die." And he's like, "Well, maybe not him. He might not die because he's a robot." He's like, "Beep boop boop. I will do my best."
I'm sorry, like, when she kind of first starts to, like, break down, it's kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah. At first you're like, oh, bring it back around, tie it back.
Like, what?
But yeah, so Shonda says, "It was a conscious choice on my part not to show Burke until the end, except for the flashback at the mixer, because I wanted you to watch the episode and either A, pine for his absence, which we did, or B, forget about him.
Never.
Until Christina walks into his room at the end of the day. Then I wanted the power of what he means to Christina to overwhelm us when he asks her how she is and then she begins to cry. 'Don't ever die' is one of my favorite Christina lines ever. Look at how much she's changed since the night of the mixer." Look at how much he's changed, though.
Yeah, see, "Don't ever die" is like one of her favorite lines. My favorite one is the, like, he talks about stupid animal stories.
He tells stupid animal stories and she's too stupid to care. No, boring animal stories.
Yeah,
amazing. And then we get this
amazing.
Yeah, amazing. What a trooper. And then we get this tiny little scene where Meredith is indifferent towards George, as per usual. Alex leaves with Olivia. Did you notice that?
I saw that.
Yeah.
And you're like, LOL.
And you're like, huh, yep. And then Izzie to George, "Isn't this so cool? I mean, tomorrow we're going to be surgeons," which, of course, is there on purpose, because in 227 she goes, "I thought I was a surgeon, but I'm not."
Mm-hmm. They're so cute, too. Plus, like, they're setting up that little friendship. They're like, "We're going to be surgeons." George's like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Ugh, yes."
Exactly.
And then we get this moment. Ugh.
Yeah.
And she just goes, "I'm ready." And you're like, "Me too, Izzie."
And I like how Meredith helps her get out of her dress. Like, there's no, like, boundaries between them now because they're family. You know? That's important. And, like, Meredith is her fierce loyalty. She would throw herself on a grenade for any of her friends at this point. Mm-hmm. So, beautiful. Helps her get up. So the closing goes, "Time flies. Time waits for no man. Time heals all wounds. All any of us wants is more time. Time to stand up. Time to grow up. Time to let go. Time." Seriously count 5.
Mm-hmm. Patient rankings.
Yeah, I actually only had 2. So
I had 3, and that's just because I split up 2 of the people.
All right, so read your number 3.
Omar.
Which is ironic because, like, that means that you ranked Giselle higher than Omar, probably because she didn't talk.
Oh, yeah. Well, and she kind of had...
That actor.
She kind of had, like, more of the meaning. Like, she's the one that kind of did, like, the whole, like, plague thing. And, like, she brought Derek and George together. Omar had nothing.
I just think it's funny because Omar, like, that guy acted his ass off. And we're like, 3.
He's like,
hilarious. My number 2 was Omar and Giselle. Yeah, so I put them together.
Yeah, my 2 was Giselle, so yeah.
And then my 1 was just Shannon, Sarah, Lisa, Karen, and the baby.
Yeah, the kids and the baby.
That was good. It reminded me of like SVU, which I kind of
liked. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But it's also to say, like, you know, like, that was a good storyline. But definitely not the best. Like, this was not a patient-driven episode.
And that's the only reason why we could even have those flashbacks.
Yes.
Yeah. So, make one change. I think they could have thrown in another flashback. Like, I mean, what's the harm in throwing in another flashback about the same length as the Christina Burke flashback for Alex? You know? And, like, get rid of, like, at least 30 seconds of that painful Omar scene. Like, nobody needs that.
Completely cut Omar out of this whole episode.
No, I mean, Omar was good for Bailey when she goes, "I should have taken over too." Yeah. But, like, nobody needs to watch...
Just have that little clip. And everything else is gone.
Nobody needs to watch 2 minutes of a dude drooling and sweating all over the floor. Like, nobody wanted that. So, anyway... You have anything else, Becca?
I don't think so. I don't really have a make one change. I don't know.
You can just say that you agree with mine. Anyway, so next week we're talking about season 3, episode 2, entitled "I Am a Tree." I am a tree.
Is it the tree that Meredith puked on?
Maybe. Written by Krista Vernoff, our love. Directed by Jeff Melman. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can on Twitter at Grey's Uncut. My Twitter account is hazard_Emily. Becca's is Anderson_Becca. We have a website where every episode is up. It's greysanatomy.uncut.home.blog. You can send longer questions or comments, or if you just want to, get into a dialogue with us at greysanatomy.uncut@gmail.com, so you can email us. And then we're up on iTunes, so if you guys would rate and review us, that would be great for our rankings. Plus, we would just like to hear from you guys. So, yeah, rate, review us. If you review us, we will give you a shout out on the air. I promise. All right. That's it. I'll see you next week.